Everyone, I want to invite Mo to our group. Mo is actually new to the group here. I want to welcome, very warm welcome to Mo for joining in with us to the group. Did you want to introduce Patricia, her a little bit more? Or?
Yeah, just I'd
Yeah,
like to welcome her. Mo, maybe you'd like to say something about yourself.
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you very much. I was
My
just
pleasure.
invited by Patricia earlier.
Yeah.
I sent her a random direct message out of the blue. I've been an advocate for my entire life for people with disabilities. I have a disability myself. I have Ehlers-Danlos, which is a very complicated, connective, multi-systemic disaster. And I'm at the end of my life. Today was actually my day for MAiD. So it's a very difficult situation for me because I need it, because medically my suffering is beyond intolerable, but all of it is my throat stops and I don't breathe. All of it is very painful because I'm in Newfoundland and Labrador. We don't have a disability support program here, so we just get general welfare. So I only get $30 a month welfare and a Canadian disability pension of $750 because we all know what that's like. When you're disabled, you have to live within the caps in order to get the provincial benefits for the peripheral stuff like pharmacare and medical transportation. And well, I could go on forever since I have 30 years and this is a professional. But I found myself on Friday receiving horrific news from the ethics consult that I was a part of that basically just said because the province of Newfoundland and Labrador are just so wholly nuts that they don't provide me enough to live and no basic needs. Like I have no basic needs met. I don't even have sewer. I don't even have water. I'm living on a beautiful house in the ocean in a tiny community where there should be caring, and I'm hungry. And but anyways, this is the most distressing thing, and I probably shouldn't be sharing it this
That's
late at night, which is
okay.
why I said I should just exit this now because there's a big range between getting a meal and literally being forced to starve to death, and I just feel like I don't know, it's a burden for all of you to bear. But basically, the thing is this, that the ethics of that are wrong because, this MAiD conversation, it's a big conversation about whether or not we're getting it because we're poor and we're in poverty and we're like this and we can't help ourselves, right? Like, I can't help myself. Like, you cannot live on under $8,000 a month or $8,000 a year. You just can't do it. Like, here in this province, we don't even get a shelter benefit. And I was with policy with ODSP. I was actually one of the advocates that took the town to task back at the end of the last century around these liens that they were placing on people's homes for your for your benefits. And it was just like, wow. And then won that. And at, in 2000, it ended up all of the liens came off the people's homes. Well, here in this province, they still do it. They actually expropriate the homes of people on income assistance and lien them for their shelter benefits. It's mind blowing. So I took the province to task here because I'm an Ontarian, obviously, who came here in 2015 with this diagnosis of 3 days to live. It's been 7 years. Now I'm dying. I go through the process. I get my MAiD and then it gets taken away from me because the government do this. This is a true story. My providers, who I have the most amount of respect for, that is the most compassionate care you can deliver as a physician to basically really stop their suffering when, I don't know, it's just so surreal. And she would have had to step over my waist in bags just to get to me to put this injection in me. Wouldn't even have a place to wash her hands. So, holy honkin', at the end of the day, that's a human administering that who obviously morally and ethically can't because They haven't done one rat's ass thing to help me for my living. But by the same token, what are the ethics of that if they can actually say that I just have to accept my death like this? Which is like, okay, well, I guess there'll be no more food after today. And I don't know what that looks like, but I know it's not death with dignity. And I know it's November 28th. And I know that there's something really, really wrong when somebody who is as entrenched as I am and has spent their life doing this that I wouldn't even be able to advocate for myself for water. Like, how weird is that? That is how a president broken this system is, and the silence in the system. The silence in the system, it's just deafening. And it's something that they do to you, and they do it on you because they silence you. Like, it's just surreal. But anyways, I've shared an awful lot. Follow me on Twitter if you want. I mean, I'm sharing a little bit about what's going to go on now. I don't know what to do. I've been thinking about ways to cope. I wrote a very professional letter to the ethics person who did the consult because I wholly get their position. Like, I wholly get it. It would be mine. But by the same token, if the ethics commission doesn't have the I guess, whatever you want to call that, capacity to compel the government to get their act together and create the political will to end this poverty, then what the hell is the use of an ethics consult that basically allows them to murder me as such, right?
Mo, you're in a good spot for to be here. For around us to echo what your thoughts, like what you're talking to us about. I've had other guests on my show who have basically got going through the same or similar situation, but yours, like I'm happy that you're talking to us about it because it really does help to champion your words going forward to try to make these politicians understand that it's not okay. And having an ethics commissioner, yeah, it's almost like one of those makeshift jobs that they want to put up there to say, "Hey, look what we're doing." But are they doing? Like they need to start. They have to listen. I mean, like I say, start listening. Though, like they need to have listened like yesterday, years ago, decades ago, and I mean, I want you to know that you are in the right spot to like for here to come to any time when I have open mic on to talk to us. And I don't I don't want you to not feel comfortable coming in. You're in a safe spot. Open mic. I have guest speakers who come on. Definitely, definitely, definitely. I want you to keep coming here as much as you can, as long as you can.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And I guess I would just like to say, like, at the end of it all, that this whole
Well,
medical assistance in dying thing is a ridiculously complex thing, and it's just so
that's what they
nutty
want,
and
though. I
pardon.
mean, I mean, that's what the government wants, though,
It's
right?
not a complex situation. This is basically genocide, eugenics, masquerading as healthcare.
I
Yeah,
agree with you. This is social
yeah.
murder. But here's the thing where you have to look at it like you can. I know I came here to define stigma, actually, in my professional life. One of the things that I wanted to do in this, which was going to be my retirement, was define stigma. And I defined stigma right away the first week I was here because the mayor was very stigmatizing social worker working for our vulnerable people here called CSSD, which is, I don't know, children, seniors, and social development. Anyway, she worked in child apprehension. We have a lot of Native children in the community that I'm too, like they're brought here for care. So I complained about some illegal dumping that went on right here in front of my ocean property, and she looked me up and seen that I was, I guess, a marginalized person, also that I struggled with suicide. But I mean, that's just like I have 35 years clean, no attempts on my life. So I'm incredibly proud of that, which is why I was so incredibly thankful for my MAiD that could be, an option to stop the suffering, which is not ever, but, in my broken place. And she went around to these parents that had children in care and said they're not allowed to be with Moira. So if they're with Moira, they have to be supervised because she's dangerous. Because we've seen that once upon a time, she thought about suicide before she moved over to the Canadian Association of Suicide Prevention to work in preventing that and develop stuff and things like this. So that was stigma. So right away, stigma was defined for me here. But as I went on to try to fight back from being that noob kid in town, that neurodiverse kid in town, I'm 62, that came here, with Rastafarian hair and colored clothes, it was like, well, it's social murder. It is social murder. I have defined social murder. And I remember back in the days, in my earlier days of advocacy, like, let's say in my 20s in Ontario, and I'd be in Queen's Park doing this and doing that. I'd see the youngins come up, and they'd say, that's social murder. That's social murder. I said, boy, that's a little bit extreme. This has been my thought in my mind. And then I never really, really ever grasped it throughout my career in this. But now I wholly know it. And I felt like, wow, people that are saying this about MAiD for people with disabilities, that people with disabilities should somehow not really be given this better opportunity to qualify. Like, it's a very complex thing because then that is eugenics. But I said in one of my tweets, it's like, that's just because they don't understand how much suffering is involved and felt in social murder. And that's what this is. So when I'm saying social murder to the people here, whoa, they get so offended. The government people go off the trip. They'll send me a letter and say, you're no longer allowed to call because you're distressing our assistants by talking social murder. And I'm like, well, isn't that what it is? If you give somebody
I guess the truth hurts.
yeah, it's like $30 a month. It's like one of those, if the shoe fits, wear it. Like, address how you feel about it so you can change it, right? So, like, they just get and then this like thing about respect in the thing, like, again, struggling with my mental health. I really struggle with my mental health around this. Why wouldn't I? I mean, you are going to end up with chronic complex PTSD when you have a disability. Like, it's just the way it is. So you might as well just add that to any diagnosis that everybody has and validate yourselves. But there is that element that because they are forcing us to die like this, because this is eugenics, because this is social murder, the way they're not providing for us in the first place, it should never in any way give them the trump to terminate us in their way. Do you know what I'm saying? Because that's their way. That's the wrong way. That's not a humane way. That's not dignity. Like what I'm living in right now, I mean, I just can't even believe it. And I was raised with a bit of a gold spoon in my mouth. And like, I never had to, like, I always had everything I needed and what I wanted. And sure, I struggled throughout my whole life making ends meet. I mean, I was a single parent with this, and this is a genetic disorder, and I had it in my own. So I really suffered a lot. Like, I have a tremendous story of tragedy and triumph. But to die like this is what flipping country am I in? Like, we're bringing people here from the war-torn countries and giving them a refuge. But this is war too. I don't know. I'm saying too much. I should just go to bed.
You're saying everything that you're entitled to say.
Yes.
And say it, and we'll listen, and we'll stand with you. Because, oh my God.
Most of us here have probably said the same thing on any number of occasions, so don't feel bad about that. We're mostly in, I won't say the same situation, but very similar.